Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Club podcast. I'm your host, Graham, and I am joined by George
Hello, hello.
and Jake.
What's going on?
And today, we're going to be talking about all sorts of fun things. First of all, I want to talk about what happened to George.
Sure. Yeah.
George has a funny story that is quite interesting. So take it away, George.
My,
What happened to you recently?
yeah, I'm trying I probably sound the same, but I'm trying not to open my mouth very much. Yesterday I went to the dentist and got some work done and on my lower jaw, one of my teeth. And so they numbed this whole area. And to like be able to get down in there, they actually put a block in my mouth to kind of keep it open because I was numb, and so they wanted it to remain open. And by doing so, I stretched like the ligaments that kind of connect the jaw to like the rest of your skull. And I got home, everything was fine. I was just numb. I couldn't feel like my lower part of my jaw, so my muscles were just extra relaxed. And I was playing with my baby, and I'm usually very expressive when I'm with him. I'm like, like make big, wide expressions. Right. And I opened my mouth, and I opened it too wide, and it dislocated out of the socket. And when I went to close it back in, it was stuck like this, and I couldn't close it. I couldn't push it. Like the first 30 seconds were like ultra panic mode. Like, what just happened? Like my initial thought was, I thought I tore a ligament, and I would have to have like surgery to get it open. I'm just like, and I just can't feel it because I'm numb. Like that was my first thought, and then I was just like, no, I gotta calm down. And I reached out to the dentist, and they're like, oh yeah, that's kind of common, especially when you're like really numb. I was just like, okay, and yeah, and that's when I got in, and I might be misrepresenting what the dentist told me, but it was essentially like it was a mixture of your muscles being extra relaxed from being numb, your ligaments being extra stretched, which allowed me to just open my mouth wider than normal, and because it was numb,
you were like a titan, freaking opening your mouth like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the combination of those two things, like I wasn't able to like feel how wide I was opening my mouth. And maybe we might put some footage in the YouTube version of this. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, it was. So now I had like a massive headache after the fact, and this morning as well. It was not so hot, but I took an ibuprofen, and I'm
good. Explain, because you explained this before the podcast, but explain how the dentist jacked your jaw back in.
Yeah, so I went back in, and he like sat me back. And he like grabbed my jaw, like he stuck his thumbs in my mouth and like grabbed my teeth, and then with his other fingers he grabbed the bottom of my jaw, and he yanked down and then shoved like inwards and up, and just like shoved it back. And I was like sitting on the dentist chair, and I just went like I leaned forward because he yanked it down so hard, and then he pushed it back, and he's like, you'll be a little bit sore for the next few days, but as long as you don't chew anything.
Difficult Lego piece together.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my story at the dentist. If dentists weren't scary enough, that
yeah, right, seriously.
Yeah, it was
not fun. When I was younger, I had the worst time with dentists. It was
dude.
It was not good. That's not good.
I never had any problems with it. My mom was a dental assistant, so I spent a lot of time after school at the dentist, so I was just very comfortable there. But
yeah.
Nice. I would be terrified if my jaw stuck all of a sudden. I can't. I have problems with my jaws anyway. Like, I don't know, they just click and feel weird sometimes, and I'll wake up in the morning and it'll just be really stiff. So I just have a fear of that, something like that happening to me. So thanks for that story, because I didn't know that was a thing that could really happen when you went to
another thing that when I initially called them, because I actually sent a picture and they hadn't seen the picture first. When I initially called them, they're like, take an ibuprofen. And they're like, okay. I was like, okay. But for whatever reason, I couldn't swallow. Like my mouth was filling up with saliva and I just couldn't swallow. And so I took an ibuprofen, and I thought I was going to choke and die. Because like I attempted to swallow it with a little bit of water, and it was just stuck right here. And I was just like, I like ended up kind of like, coughing it back out. Thankfully, but yeah,
because I mean, how do you?
Yeah, so my jaw's like stuck open. Yeah, go ahead and just swallow a bunch of water. I'm sure that'll work with like your jaw being open. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, because hold your mouth open and try and swallow right now. It's like
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
good
hard.
luck.
it does. It doesn't really work that well.
It's like laughing when you're frowning.
Yeah, or sneezing with
Like,
your eyes
ugh.
open.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do that
Things that
easy, no
just
You
problem.
can?
can't be.
Yeah,
Wow, that's got
I
Oh
don't
my
have a
feats.
gosh,
sneeze right now, but someday I'll
that's
show you.
funny.
All right.
Someday
Anyways,
we go to the
well,
Olympics
that's
with it.
yeah, right, exactly. Speaking of the Olympics, um, there's some interesting stuff that's happened with the Olympics recently, and some, I guess, video game prep that they're doing. Is that right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
was,
can
I
I
was.
actually have like the article that they put out on
Do
it.
you have? Yeah, if you've got that
Um
information.
yeah, let's so I won't read the full thing, but just I guess the highlights says the International
Sure.
Olympic Committee will partner with 5 international sports federations and game publishers to produce the Olympic Virtual Series, the first ever Olympic licensed event for physical and non-physical virtual sports. And then the uh, says the following international federation and gaming publishers will be a part of the Olympic Virtual Series. And it's World Baseball Softball Confederation, eBaseball Powerful Pro Baseball 2020, Konami Digital Entertainment, Union Cyclist International, Swift Inc., World Rowing, World Sailing, uh, Virtual, I don't know how you say this thing, Virtual Regatta, and then the Gran Turismo. So kind of an interesting thing that I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to get your guys' take on it because I saw some Reddit posts and then some YouTube videos about it, and there was a little bit of an argument in the comments. A large consensus, maybe it was just the videos that I watched, but a large consensus kind of moved away from just having this virtual series to kind of pushing for just having esports as part of the Olympics in general. And my take, and I want to be, I want to be clear about this. It's not that I'm dismissing esports because I absolutely love them. You know, I understand the level of dedication and effort and skill that it takes. But my take, I see the Olympics more as something for just physical kind of events rather than bringing in like esports and all that stuff. So that's the way I view the Olympics. Not to say I don't want, competitive esports in the limelight, which I absolutely do, but as far as the Olympics specifically, it just for me it doesn't fit. And so I just wanted to see if you guys had thoughts on that.
Yeah, I didn't read too much about it. I just heard it like really short, a really short snippet this week about it. I don't know. I have no problem with Olympics incorporating. Like it doesn't sound like they're incorporating it fully. It
It's not
sounds like
right
it's
now.
almost like a primer, like they're testing the waters kind of thing
Yeah,
and
so far
whatnot.
it's like a separate thing from the actual Olympics, but
Right.
still by the IOC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with stuff like that. I think I'm not a big fan of the Olympics from like an economic standpoint. There's a lot of like
Yeah, there's that.
economic not great stuff that happens with the Olympics.
Yep.
And the other thing is I'm just not really interested in the Olympics as an event itself anyways.
hmm
But if they want to incorporate like video games, I would be all for that. I think that's great. I don't necessarily think it would be something I would push for personally because of my kind of disinterest in the Olympics. So if they do or don't, it's irrelevant. But I mean, I'd say sure, why not? I don't think I granted, I mean, you said like the Olympics is only physical things. Like okay, but like what I guess it comes down to me is like what is the Olympics and what is it for and what is it supposed to be, right? Like is the Olympics only a physical thing because at the time the Olympics was conceived, it was only physical things you could do for the Olympics? Like, should it be updated to include like amazing feats of some kind of, sporting thing? Like, do we acknowledge esports enough as a sport that we should acknowledge that it's, a feat that people should be displaying or what?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
that's
question. I
very
think
good
that
question.
the culture and the people all over the world change all the time, and if that's something that's gonna be pushed for and wanted, if the players want to do it and the people want to see it, it's gonna happen. And I don't have a problem with it either. I think it would just, I mean, you just put it in its own branch. I mean, it has, you could do enough. I mean, right there he listed so many things I didn't even know were a thing virtually. Um, but I
Yeah,
guess
I didn't either. So
um, it could be in its own section, obviously, because it doesn't need to take place in the same physical like areas that the physical things do. But that doesn't mean that they would be any different in my mind. It's just what people want to watch. Yeah, the Olympics have been about physical prowess and like top athletes in that sense forever. But I'm like you, Graham. I don't know. I'm not super into it, but I don't know what the purpose of the Olympics was when it was created. I assume it was just to
Right.
bring cultures together, and also because everybody just likes competition. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, so it's just a worldwide competition, and that can be fun to watch in a virtual sense for lots of other people as well. And there's interesting stuff like that. Like my dad is really into racing, and over the past, and I think it's been accelerated because of the current climate and in the world. But over the past 5 years, he's always been telling me about these video game racers that have these really good, like you said, Gran Turismo. I guess there's a lot of other really good physical engines for racing games that
Mm-hmm.
people practice
hmm.
on, and some of them only play that. Like there was some kids who came up who only raced on the virtual version, who went to the actual racing cars and won things.
Wow.
Wow.
From just
So
doing
he's
it virtually before.
yeah, and so
Wow.
like in that sense, if you take that, I mean, racing's not. I don't think it's an Olympic sport right now, but maybe it is. I don't know enough about it, but in that
I
sense,
don't
like
think it is either, but
these
yeah.
people went from. I mean, they're doing this like they're not in the physical world, but they were doing the same actions, and those skills crossed over enough that they could do either one. And so in that, I'm sure it's different in a lot of ways, but not enough that people can't go back and forth. So which one is better? Which one do you want to watch? I don't know. Just depends on the people.
Yeah, that's a good point because like I don't know if racing is in the Olympics. I don't think it is. So yeah, it's just a question of like what does the Olympics represent? You know, things change and evolve over time. Do we acknowledge so like chess as we had like a little precursor conversation about this before and just like chess is not at the Olympics, right? But it could be seen as some kind of feat, maybe like a performance feat to some degree. Now, I think chess is a little bit different because it's more strategic. It's not so much like a performance, it's more like a strategy or something strategic, but I find it a little fundamentally different than something like that's more even like soccer. There is strategy, but the onus is on performing, even like against the other team, right? And I think that chess is more strategic rather than is performance per se. But maybe people will be upset about me saying that about chess. But like I feel like that's kind of where maybe the nuance is, where like esports is much more of that like performance side than it is the strategic side when coming to things like certain games, I guess you could say. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Do we acknowledge esports as sports, or is it just esports in name, right? So if we allow sports in the Olympics and we acknowledge esports as just an electronic version of sports, then there should really be no reason to not have it.
So, on just to get your opinion a little better, like as far as like the performance and strategy and stuff like that, like what if esports were to get in the Olympics? What type of games would you see? Like,
I wouldn't want to see something like, League
it
of
would be Rocket
Legends or
League.
Heroes of the Storm. Yeah, Rocket League. Yeah, like honestly, the Rocket League wouldn't be terrible pick. I wouldn't be the one I would pick, but I wouldn't. I would be like, okay, Rocket League makes some sense, I guess. But I wouldn't pick things like League or Heroes of the Storm or even like Counter Strike or something like that. I would want something. I don't know, more grounded, I guess, something more straightforward and like very focused on like the performance aspect, even though like, you know, Counter-Strike and League of Legends is super focused on that performance. It is quite complex and it's there's like a little bit more to it, I
Yeah,
think.
that's another thing is watching physical feats, and as far as like from a watching perspective, it's super relatable, right? Anybody
Right.
can watch somebody throwing something in the Olympics or running really fast or jumping over something and be like, wow, I know how to gauge this and I know how to understand that this is incredible. And we just don't have that same, you might not have that same connection just on a base human level for these other things. Like somebody clicks on League and they see something happen in 5 seconds that,
It's
League
just like,
players are like amazed. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the normal, like a normal person who doesn't look know about that is not going to be connected in that way. So that's something that is really interesting, is like the human connection level of just like anybody can watch this and realize that it's about the human form performing something amazing.
So yeah, and so there's a couple reasons why I asked that. First one is, because you mentioned like, what do we think the Olympics is about, and then you also asked like, do we acknowledge esports as sports? And so like it goes to the thing like, if we acknowledge, let's just, for the sake of argument, say yes, we acknowledge League of Legends as a sport, but if the Olympics is solely about sports, then why not League of Legends as opposed to something else? So that was one factor in my question. And then the other thing too is like, you guys kind of touched base on it a little bit there with the things that are complicated. Like, I mean, the most complicated thing that I've seen at the Olympics would be like fencing or curling. With curling's the one where you like push the little ball and you got to sweep
mm-hmm.
in front. And I mean, yeah, it's complex as far as like the specific rules, but when I see it, I immediately know like, oh, they're trying to
Yeah.
get this
Right.
little ball, in
It's
this
about, it's a
area.
lot about hitting the mark. If it's not about like running fast or jumping fast, it's about hitting a mark.
Yes,
So,
Right.
which
exactly.
is an innate human thing that's in our DNA,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
yeah. And so like
Yeah,
that's
and
why
which games incorporate that and sometimes, but
they
some games
do.
are very abstract in that, in the way of
right.
presenting that.
Yeah, and
Right.
and so I didn't mean to cut you off there, Grant, but just real quick to finish up. And so that's why like, so many esports are just, they don't have that thing where you can just see them unless you're in there and you're like part of that community. You can't just tune in and immediately pick up on what's going on. So yeah, you guys like kind of hit one of my things like right
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. Like when I turn on like a League clip or a Dota clip that I see randomly online, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, I'm just like, I don't fully understand. Like unless it's like something straightforward, like this guy's attacking this guy, and it's like he's ganking this other guy, whatever it is, right? It's like, okay, this is like clear what's happening. But if it's more
Mm-hmm.
complex of like, oh, they took down this creep camp in this scenario, it was crazy. I'm just like, I don't know these items and characters and the creep and the meta of what is really normally done here and how they've subverted, the expectation, blah blah blah, right? Like, and when I think about the Olympics, that is something I think about is like the Olympics is really simple. Like it's an easy to understand thing, and that's why when I think about games that would go to the Olympics, it just doesn't like I guess it's been like a subtle thing that I subconsciously feel about the Olympics is that it's simple because I go, League just doesn't seem like the right thing for the Olympics. Like it's so much more complex and like so many things to understand. Like the Olympics feels like something that even I, who doesn't have any interest in it, should be able to turn on and be like, "Oh, I understand," right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if I see a racing game or I see some more like even Rocket League, right? Like Rocket League is
Yeah.
very simple,
Rocket League
right?
is
Yeah, like I can
immediately
turn that on.
translatable in that
Right,
sense.
exactly. Yeah, so I think if they included video games that had that low bar of understanding, I think that's what they should do. I don't think that they should bring in things like League. I think it will only alienate people and they'll turn
Or
it
any
on and be
sort of
like,
battle royale, because it just,
yeah, or anything like that. It's not good spectator sport. It's gobbledygook to all the people who freaking watch it and don't know what's going on. Throw something like Rocket League or throw something like, was it Forza?
something, he said Gran
Gran
Turismo,
Turismo, yeah.
but
Gran
something,
Turismo.
yeah, something that I would also say is right down to a mechanics level, is like you want something that has almost like very little or almost no RNG, because
Right.
that's like you were talking about how you in the Olympics you're going against yourself a lot. Like if you're not straight up in boxing or some sort of one-on-one thing, you may still be on a team, but when you're doing runs like bobsledding or whatever, or you're racing against the
Hmm.
clock, um, and there's not, as far as RNG, it's just like it's all about how you prepared and how you perform more. I mean, there's still things that can go wrong, right? But for the most part, they try and set it up so it's like very like everybody has the same starting point, right? And everything
Right.
should go the same for everybody if they perform the way that they're supposed to.
Hmm.
It's just about performing better than the next guy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
game a lot of games could destroy that with just like bad rolls or
Yeah.
weird things happening. So
Right. Yeah, yeah. So, and maybe that's why chess isn't included in that, because like it, even for someone, chess isn't that complicated. But if you know nothing about chess and you start to see random pieces like taking other pieces, you're just like,
yeah.
I don't
First of all,
understand
it's
why
pretty
that was
boring for a normal person, and it's not
right.
translatable. Yeah.
Right. So maybe that makes sense why chess isn't there, but maybe theoretically could be there, right?
I mean, but you
So,
also don't need the Olympics to have high level chess and people be into it. So,
true.
I mean,
Right.
should those people still be celebrated? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I can celebrate them without them being in the Olympics. I don't.
Right.
If they need to be there for international purposes to bring us together, then I'm fine with that too. But those
Right.
people they're not any less because they're not in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right, but the
Yeah.
same can be said for games, right? Like we don't need to include games in the Olympics because they can celebrate that somewhere else,
Yeah, and you were
right?
talking about the economic thing. Is I also have heard so many things about how the actual Olympians don't make the performers, the athletes don't make that much money, and the Olympics are a huge toll in many ways in the areas that they go into. Like they bring a lot of money in first, but then
Yeah,
apparently it can become a disaster. I'm not saying that every Olympics has been, but
right. There's a
and
lot of them that have been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
it's a whole topic we
damage
can get into. Yeah,
and
underweight.
it encourages like,
yeah.
I mean, isn't Russia banned from this Olympics? I think they were
I
banned from this one or
I
the
think
last one
I think so because the
because
steroids. I think.
yeah, for
Oh,
yeah, dosing, which yeah, there's a whole Netflix documentary you can watch on that, but
hmm.
yeah, it encourages these weird cultures, which cheating can happen in anything,
Right.
Hmm.
but again, I'm not opposed to if video games get that popular in a certain part of the culture of just creating something new. I mean, we can get together without having to have these old legacy
Right.
things.
Hmm.
Incorporating new
Yeah.
stuff
So
into
I'm
the
for
yeah.
either way, whichever way works best for everybody. Like if it's good, if the players want to do it and the people want to see it, then let's figure out a way to do it. I don't really care if it happens in the Olympics or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, hearing actually the way you guys put it actually opens my mind a little bit because I'm kind of happy and well, I guess more surprised that you mentioned that something like League or Dota wouldn't necessarily be a good fit. And I think my initial reaction of no, just esports separate was because a lot of the comments were like, oh, imagine seeing Counter Strike at the Olympics. Like some of them were like memeing, obviously, and being funny. But then there was a grain of truth in some of those comments, and so that's what kind of drove me to like, I just can't. Not to say that people who play Counter Strike professionally aren't like amazing human beings with like inhuman reaction time, but it's just I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what it
If you ever
is.
watched Shroud in his prime, I don't know if I
Yeah.
don't know if he's even out of his prime. I
Yeah.
stopped watching a while ago, but man, that kid is
Yeah,
insane.
exactly. But I don't know what it is in my mind. It just I can't picture that in the Olympics. And like
Yeah, there's an underlying like subconscious theme because I have the same thing. Like I can't picture it either. There's some kind of underlying theme with the Olympics that it just doesn't fit.
yeah.
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 But again,
Yeah.
maybe the Olympics can evolve. And what I
True.
would think is going to happen, so I think it's probably inevitable. Like you already said that this little section that they've come off, it seems like it's kind of virtual slash physical stuff, like rowing, like physical rowing. Like so you're still competing, you're just not in the lake, right? You're
Hmm.
just like they have machines for that now. They can measure all these metrics. They can put you in a virtual world if they want, and like still have something to show
Give you water
visual, like
resistance
people
on the
that are watching.
seat.
Yeah. So so again, I think it's inevitable that it is going to get rolled into it, but I think when it really kicks in, it's going to be something that we've already surpassed all what we think might go into that, or like what popular games and pop culture in games is right now, is going to transcend into something else that is more virtual reality, that is something that we can kind of see, like, but nobody sees things coming. Like nobody saw whoops, Mike. Nobody saw battle royales coming the way they did. That's just a small trend,
Right.
but
Hmm.
like video games are just going to become something completely different, like really fast, probably, and that's what's going to end up being put into that. They're going to find a way to like have something that is tight, like you said, Graham. That's going to fit in that, and it will also be probably insanely popular because it'll be like something that people are playing on VR all the time, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever it may be. I can't speculate because it's I feel like it's going to be something that nobody exactly can pin down.
Yeah, I mean, as we gain, as virtual and AR technology evolves, like I can only imagine that that will become a more and more normal thing. Like, 100 years from now, when augmented reality and virtual reality have evolved to a point, like, won't I can't understand why all the Olympics wouldn't be incorporating that technology in some way, shape, or form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether it be measuring jumps or whether it be like some kind of virtual new sports game that people are playing with AR and VR technology,
Hmm.
right?
And
Like
robot
there's
arms that shoot lasers that don't kill people,
yeah,
but they stun them. And
yeah, like there's so many
I mean,
there really
that'll be as close to video games in real life as you can get at that point, and we'll probably get there. So
yeah,
people,
we
uh,
probably will at some point. Yeah, so I imagine that like the incorporation of like, you know, technology will vastly change what we're dealing with, especially like because we're only now at the proper advent of VR technology and it's like mega baby steps right now. So I can only imagine what will come of it.
It's
So
kind of like
I don't know,
Jake's
we'll see.
dad said, there's already kids doing that with the racing stuff. Like it's
yeah.
Yeah.
fully AR
And my
augmented
dad
reality
thinks
by
it's
that point.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a person who's been into racing since he was a little kid, yeah, he thinks it's amazing. Like, I don't know.
It is interesting. It's a big interesting time for games to be coming into like games are more and more popular every year with the general audience, especially with the recent like year and a half we've had. Like more people are exploring the possibilities of entertaining themselves with games. Even my parents have started to play a little bit of games. I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration. My dad is still a little slow up on the upkeep, but my mom has started playing Animal Crossing,
Wow.
right? And she
Kind of a
plays it
perfect
almost
game to
every
start,
day.
though.
Yeah, she
Anything you're gonna
loves it.
pick, it's the Animal
And
Crossing.
I've just been like,
We should turn her on to Stardew
hmm,
Valley
hmm.
next, and she'll be like, "Wow, this is so
Yeah.
much better than Animal Crossing."
Yeah. Yeah, but it's
Indeed.
just funny like seeing my mom like start to get it. She's just like, "Oh, like I've been playing for like 2 hours and I realized like, oh, like I thought I was playing for like just 30 minutes and it's been so long." And I'm just like, yes,
Yeah,
you're starting to understand now how I've been my whole life." So
yeah.
it's interesting to see games like more and more. Like games have been coming into the limelight for like a decade now, but like every year feels like it's more, especially in the last year, it feels like it's more and more in the limelight than it ever has been. So it's cool.
Yeah. No,
It's
it's
exciting times.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, on a different vein too, like the Olympics aren't an open license to all sports either. So
Right.
it was a
Right.
little bit, comforting. I guess our opinions were a little more in line than I initially thought, that, esports or having esports in the Olympics wasn't like an open license to all esports in the Olympics. So that was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be. But before we get off that topic, I just wanted to throw out there that skateboarding and climbing are now in the Olympics this year. So that's going to be,
Really?
yeah, that's going to be fun.
Climbing,
This,
like
yeah,
competitive,
like,
like where you race up,
yeah,
or
like both.
Speed
Well, they
climbing?
have like three different things they do. Alex Honnold was just on JRE, so if you want to hear about it, I think he's actually like on the committee or something. I don't know, or going to
okay.
commentate, but He was talking about the different types. They have like a speed one, and then like a boulder problem one, and then a one that's just like super insanely hard, and they just try and get as far as they can before they fall, and then they just measure you by
Wow.
height. So I think
Wow.
those are the three that they do. Um, yeah, so that's really cool, and that seems like something that, I mean, I guess now we've got the technology to like build these walls better, I guess, but they didn't have before.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, kind of taking out the RNG of like if they were out at a real mountain and then like one guy, the light's
Gets a
different and it
harder
starts
wall
to
than the other
rain or
guy, and
something like, or
yeah.
Yeah.
so now they've got these artificial walls and they got professional people that have been climbing for years and years and years to set them up and make this. So that's really cool because that is something that, and that's what he said in the podcast too, that made me think about that. It's like, it's so human. Like you can just watch it and know, you can just turn it on and not even know that it's a competition and watch somebody climbing and be enamored by it because you know what's at stake. You know the drama of it, of what they're
Yeah.
doing, and everybody can relate with climbing. I mean,
Yeah.
so and then
Yeah,
as
and mhm.
and as being a skateboard fan, like I skateboard, I'm not very good at it because I'm a little bit of a bigger boy and I'm just not as agile as I was back in the day. But I skateboarded when I was a kid. Just loved the culture, love hanging out with my friends and just ride. I just like to ride mostly. I don't really do any tricks, but I'm still into watching. I love watching skate videos. There's a lot of. I thought skateboarding couldn't get any more complicated, and boy was I wrong. Like over the past decade,
Yeah.
it's just skyrocketed to these people just doing insane things. So I'm really excited to see what that's all about this year.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's interesting to see, things that have been like long-standing traditional stuff incorporating even like things that are old, like older that are like skateboarding and climbing and newer things like games. It's just interesting to see those things like evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of new and interesting things, E3 is coming soon.
Coming soon to a
That's true.
computer screen near
So,
you.
Yeah.
to a computer screen near you. In fact, just recently, Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, and Gearbox have added their, I guess, word to the fact that they're going to be doing E3 this year.
Wow. Okay.
I'm very excited for E3 this year for one, or I guess two particular reasons. One is
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Dragon's Dogma 2. I am so excited for Dragon's Dogma 2. I really hope it's announced this year, only because I want to see it with my eyes and confirm that it's going to be amazing, which it will be. And two, that means it'll be coming kind of soon-ish. So I'm very excited for that. But I'm also really excited for Elden Ring,
Yeah.
as like lots of people online are. The Elden Ring sub. I don't know if you guys aware of like the Elden Ring subreddit memes of like them absolute.
Oh.
Okay, so that whole subreddit is filled with people who are legit losing their minds because there was like the announcement of Elden Ring and then there's been nothing for like a
Well,
year or
did you
two.
watch the? Did you see the leaks
I
thing?
didn't. I
Okay.
saw that there was a leak thing and I went, I'm gonna watch this in like proper quality because the leak video was like really bad quality.
Yeah, I have no problem like fixing that with my brain though. When I watch something like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, obviously, like first of all, this is probably on his crappy screen, and the guy's recording it with a phone in like crappy
I just want
lighting.
my
Shaky
first
cam.
exposure.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
shaky hand cam. I just want my first exposure to be like
yeah,
wowing. Cause like if I'd already seen like gameplay and stuff before, I'd be like, okay, I'll watch this. But if it's my very first exposure, I want to be wowed.
yeah. And
So me,
like not to discredit it or anything, but I
sure,
always watch stuff like that, and I just don't even remember. Like I'll just be like, okay, whatever. Like I'm super
right,
excited for it too, not as excited as you are, but
right,
I clicked on it immediately when I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, I want to see what this is about, and I was like, oh, this is a
yeah,
crappy video, but yeah, it looks like that game. In my is how I imagined it. I'm sure it's gonna
right.
the graphics are gonna be amazing and still blow me away when I see the video the right way. Um,
Right.
but I
Yeah, I think
I didn't know
it
that
was.
George R. R. Martin was involved with that until I saw that because I read a little thing
Oh,
about it
I
right
didn't know
underneath,
that
and I
till
was like,
now. Till you
yeah,
just said it.
apparently
Yeah.
he's
You guys didn't know that? Oh
No.
yeah.
yeah, apparently he's helping them write I think
Yep.
the thing I read was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I know you will, but that he was writing more of the world building
Yeah.
than actual like
Actual story.
Yeah, he's not
specifics
doing
about the
like
game.
right. He's not doing the story per se, but he's
Yeah,
helping build the world and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. So
Instead
Oh
of
yeah,
finishing
I.
Game of Thrones.
that's cool.
That's
Gotcha.
right.
What's
Basically.
probably happening in my mind, I imagine, is they're just like coming up with something and they send it to him and they're like, "Is this good?" And he's like, "Yeah,"
I'll
or
approve it, or
"No."
I'll allow
Yeah, like
it.
He'll
that's.
probably say I'll get back to you in like 3 months.
Yeah.
Like
And then he
yes or
comes
no
back with
answer.
something completely different. He's like, "I
Yeah.
think there should be a chicken named Roger in the first part." No.
Yeah, I am not a huge Game of Thrones fan, but I know that he's done a really good job of building interesting characters and worlds and stuff like that. So, just like, the announcement per se of him being a part was at first I was kind of like, oh, okay, like I don't care for his series, but I know he's quite a skilled person at what he does, so it just makes me all the more excited for Elden Ring. Like it's gonna be like a truly open world game, and From Software is like my favorite fucking company ever. So I have high faith in them that they're gonna really pull through with something amazing. So, it's probably not gonna hit everyone's expectations of like literally the greatest video game ever released. It's like
No.
bringing children back to life. It's so good, but like it's just I expect it to be a really amazing, and it's gonna be. I'm excited.
I'm
So,
sure
is
it's
there
going to be a
any?
great game.
I'm sure it will be. It has to be, of course. Is there any games that you guys are looking forward to for E3?
Oh man.
I've been trying not to think about it, but yeah, you go
Yeah.
ahead, George.
Well, I haven't given it a lot of thought actually. I don't set a ton of expectations really before E3. I'm more of the kind of guy that likes to just sit back and enjoy the show, see what we get. And then I'm usually pretty hyped about some of the things I see. But there hasn't been anything specifically that I.
Oh, George, come on. Wait a second.
Oh
I just
yes,
had a
Pikmin 4.
realization.
Pikmin
Of
4.
course.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
Pikmin 4
Pikmin
with
4.
bingo.
With the bingo
with
battle.
online bingo battle. Because the tragedy
George.
that was Pikmin 3 without online bingo battle when it came to the Switch was the biggest wasted
Travesty.
opportunity in the history of video games.
Yeah,
I don't
would say might
fight
as well
me
not
on
buy
that. I don't
buy
care.
that version. Yeah.
Yeah, just throw it in the trash. Why did you even buy it, George? You shouldn't support them.
Dude, I'm a Pikmin sucker, man. I'm
That
a
was
simp.
his-
I'm a simp for all of our.
For all of our simp. You're the first.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it was.
well, that's understandable.
I guess I do have one thing. Did you have something else, George?
No, just Pikmin 4.
Okay.
Only
That's
Pikmin.
it.
Yeah, I'm
It's
like
only got eyes for Pikmin.
I'm like you. I have not been thinking about it. I mean, this is not really a year that I feel like it's to get super excited about anyway. Or maybe we should be more excited about it because
True.
we just need something to the spice of life to get us
Yeah.
going through.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I would say, as far as a game that I don't even know anybody's heard anything besides some obscure guy on the internet like talking about it on his stream apparently, and then it making its way through podcasts to me is Alan Wake 2.
Okay.
So Remedy, which is one of my favorite, they've got to be one of the best. I think they are one of the best developers ever. I've really been. They did the Max Payne. I think they did the old Max Paynes. Not all of them, but they did some of the Max Paynes maybe. And then Alan Wake's American Nightmare, and then most recently Control, which won like a ton of awards and has like it's a super fun game with an amazing world, and I just really like the type of world that it creates. And with some of the stuff they put in there, they hinted that the Alan Wake universe is also in this universe. And then
I have to
some
Google
guy,
this because I've never.
Do you
yeah,
know these
it's-
games, George?
I've never heard.
have
of
you
this
ever heard
game.
of Twin Peaks, George?
Yes, I've heard of
The
Twin
show?
Peaks.
Okay, so the like the Alan Wake Control world is kind of like Twin Peaks and Twilight Zone-ish.
Okay.
Like
I don't know
in-
anything about Twin Peaks other than I've heard of the show.
Oh, okay.
But...
Well, I don't know. It's just a really fun.
It's like a twisted
strange
reality
world.
kind of thing, right?
okay.
Yeah, it's like not to spoil Control that much, because you find this out like in the first like 5 minutes of the game, you walk into the building of basically the Ghostbusters of the FBI if they were Ghostbusters. I can't remember what they call it. It's been a minute since
Okay.
I played the game. It actually did come out in 2019, so it's been a minute. But yeah, so they're like paranormal investigators of any type. Anything that's
Mm.
weird, they work for the government, but nobody knows that they're there. And so, you
I
know,
like Men
you
in
just
Black a little bit.
yeah. So they just deal with all this
But it's
weird
Interesting.
it's MI
stuff.
it's like MIB but less focused on the aliens and more about paranormal stuff, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it just
Okay.
goes all over the place. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
I saw you playing like a while back. You were streaming playing just like a little snippet of it,
Mhm.
and it looks really interesting to be honest. Actually, it looks really
Yeah.
cool. So it's definitely on my playlist.
And then yeah, the world and the story stuff is what I like the most about those. They are and Control is even more. It's a very fluid game to play. Like once you get used to it, the gameplay is fun. It's not super complicated. And
Gotta look that one up as well.
there are things about some of the game mechanics that I don't like, specifically like the loot stuff, but it doesn't really detract. Like you can largely get by with not worrying about that and just playing the actual physical being in the world and playing is pretty smooth. So, but
Okay.
anyway, some guy said that Epic had bought Remedy or ordered from Remedy Alan Wake 2 and that it was going to be exclusive on their platform. And I just hope that I don't care if it comes to Epic, I don't care who does it, but I just want an Alan Wake 2 and I want that Remedy to keep making their strange worlds. So that's probably the thing I would be most excited to hear, but I don't even know if it's real or not. It's just a rumor at this point. So
Yeah,
it's pretty far out there. Um, there was one other thing, but I can't remember.
I really
It'll come
like
up.
one thing that I really like about like Control's world specifically is I like weird, interesting settings and worlds that aren't too abstract. Right? Like if it goes off into the like super abstract where it's like, oh, it doesn't really make sense and it's supposed to be weird and blah blah blah. It just kind of like loses me into like the no, I guess the I don't want to offend anyone, the artsy fartsy kind of like, kind of thing. But I really like that it's like the control, at least from the outside looking in, like it looks like it's weird, but it's like a grounded, makes sense, like kind of interesting weird that's
Yeah,
not too
that
far out
I
there.
think what you're hinting on there is something that must be a key to creating a really amazing universe, a really believable, like relatable universe, and it doesn't have to be like quote unquote a realistic in so many ways as it needs to have a base set of rules
Right.
and follow those rules but bend them in ways that aren't like you said like just completely unbelievable that you wouldn't think they would happen in this world or like
Right.
take the player or the viewer out of it. I was actually watching a little mini documentary about Adventure Time, and that's one of the things that Pendleton Ward was talking about. He was like, well, we're in this fantastical universe, but we have to create these, even in this fantastical universe, we have to create these boundaries on where we take things so that we can continue to make the characters and the world and the stories relatable and believable in this world. And it can't just be like every episode is a freaking acid trip to the moon, like
Right.
that doesn't make
Right.
any sense. Like it
Right.
can go close to that, but it needs to make a certain sense in a way. And
Mhm.
maybe that's what you're catching on there with that's
Yeah,
what they
and then
do.
yeah, exactly that, exactly that. And it needs to be like on some level pretty understandable, right? Like it also needs to follow its rules and be grounded in itself, but it also needs to be like understandable. If it's so abstract that it's like not even easy to like understand, then it's just like it loses me. But if it's able to convey itself, like there's a lot of weird stuff and we follow our own rules, but also like you can also kind of understand the things that are happening and stuff, even though they're like more abstract or weird on that
Yeah.
like scale. So yeah, I really like it. I'm definitely excited to try it at some point. I mean, my backlog is freaking massive, which I've actually been playing through my backlog. Maybe we'll get to that in a second, but yeah. So that'll be interesting to look forward to for E3 as well if they talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
definitely sparked my interest in Control because I was actually in my to play list and I just had forgotten
Yeah, it's
because it
amazing.
looked, yeah, it looked
I
really interesting from the get go. So
I initially wanted to pick it for our game of the month. I think that was like the first game I said, and then I don't think I think it's a little bit longer than what we try to keep it
Uh,
at, but
Speaking of which, has anyone started Nox yet?
not yet.
I have not.
And you've
Got
done
it
like all three
installed.
campaigns, right?
I've done all three campaigns.
He's playing PvP with
Um,
himself. He's hooked up another computer and
yeah,
he's
I'm playing PvP with myself now. Dallin has almost finished the first campaign,
Okay, nice.
so it's yeah. So I won't say what he played through yet. I'll let you guys. I don't want to taint your decision of which campaign you'll play, but I'm excited
okay.
to
Yeah,
hear.
because I would go opposite of Dallin for sure.
Well, even if we had played though, you'd have to wait till the end of the month before we can talk
I
Yeah.
about
mean, I
something.
understand, but I'm excited for you guys to
All
start
right, all
playing.
right.
Oh, the other thing I was thinking of for E3 is, and this is just real quick, I just want to
Yeah.
hear more about actual partnerships and what's going on, like with Bethesda and Microsoft and stuff like that. I want to hear
Yeah,
what
that's
they're
a
gonna
good
do,
point
like what their
actually.
plans are, and
You know what I want to hear from that? I want to hear the fact that they've scrapped all of their projects for like what was it? Elder Scrolls, the new Elder Scrolls, and what's
Starfield.
Starfield. I want to hear that they've like essentially restarted completely because I freaking know Bethesda, or at least old Bethesda, and they would have been like, yeah, we're using the Skyrim engine still to make the new freaking Elder Scrolls, even though the Skyrim engine is absolute freaking garbage in my opinion.
It has really good
And
compression though. They fit a lot of
yeah,
things into very, very little
that's
amounts.
that's true. That's true. But
That's
I
the
think
one thing that I
honestly,
was like, what the heck? How did they get this to like eight? I think the original, like without anything added to it, no patches, it was like like ridiculous, like 12 gigs or something.
yeah, it's very. I mean, they've been able to do some interesting technological
Yeah.
things with that engine, but I think, in my opinion, this is not going to be a popular opinion. I don't think Skyrim's that good of a game. It's a great game for casual people. I think a lot of casual people really like it, and I think even a lot of hardcore people like it. I even played through the entirety of it the first time going through Magic, but the second I tried anything other than Magic, which Magic in itself was pretty shallow, it's the melee combat sucks. You know, the sneaking, you get too overpowered with sneaking and arrows and stuff. You
Yeah,
become
you
like
get too
totally
overpowered
OP.
with pretty much anything in the game unless you're playing on
Yeah.
Master or Legendary that they added.
I just think
Yeah. It's a
it's just,
simple
you know,
game.
it's
It's
a
a
simple
simple
game. Yeah.
game
It's a shallow
and
experience and there's a lot to
well,
do
it's a
and
shallower
it just
experience mechanically, but I
right,
really
that's what I
liked
mean.
just I just really liked hanging out in the world and it was the
Right.
to that point when it came out, it was the most comprehensive fantasy virtual world you could just go in and walk in that had that much detail. I mean,
Right.
like stuff like WoW existed where you could go and have these giant like so many people playing at once and role play and stuff, but for like something that was more like say reading a book on your own and like getting really invested in something at your own pace, that was probably the biggest thing. The I mean, Oblivion, the same thing before that. Like I loved it and just took Oblivion and just made it even simpler in the mechanics and bigger and more detailed. And I that's
Yeah.
why I liked it. Yeah, it's
Yeah, and I will
but it
say
is
I did
totally a power
enjoy.
trip. Like you just get so
Yeah,
so
I did enjoy the
strong.
game when it came out. You know, I just think after the first initial playthrough, I was just kind of like, okay, this game's not that great. But I understand where you're coming from when it comes to like being in the world and stuff. That's fair. I will give it that. One thing I will say, what I'm saying is that when I looked at things like Fallout 76 and Fallout 4, like those games, you know, if they're Fallout 4, not super great. Fallout 76, really terrible, absolute, you know, garbage monstrosity. So like I looked at like, oh, okay, Starfield and the new Elder Scrolls, like this is clearly going to be like more of the same, you know, low bar set stuff. But then when Microsoft bought Bethesda, I was like, oh boy, I really hope that they turn these studios around because I think that there's a lot of talent at Bethesda. I just think that they are pushed into making low standard garbage. and or just iterative low standard stuff. It's not necessarily garbage. I don't want to poo-poo too much on them, but like I really hope that there'll be some announcements of like delays or restarts or something to be like, yeah, Microsoft really helped to reorganize things and reinvigorate that we want to have a high bar of quality. Because I don't know about you guys, I played Fallout 3 when it came out, and that game was incredible at the
Yeah.
time. It was amazing,
Yeah,
and
the
I would
choices
love
you
to
could
have.
make and the stories were really fun, and the world was
Yeah,
just it was
the
like
world
a
was cool.
again being in a post-apocalyptic like zombified type world. That was the first big one we got of that, and
Yeah,
but yeah, as you go on, it just I mean Fallout 4 could have just been DLC to
yeah,
the other ones to me, and
which is like a decade apart. Like,
yeah, and the building stuff that they added, I tried to do it and I didn't think there was anything fun about it, and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would love to have that experience again with newer Bethesda games. So the acquisition with that, so I hope maybe there's some interesting announcements regarding that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We will see. Recently, I've been playing some games on my backlog. I've already played this game about a decade ago, but playing through right now Cave Story, which is Cave Story Plus on Steam. Um, Very good. Lots of fun. I played it till like 3 o'clock in the morning last night.
I
That's
saw
why.
I saw
Yes,
you on at one point.
I was a little worried. I was like, oh, fuck, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Am I gonna be able to get up for the podcast in the
Yeah, for
morning?
anybody
So,
wondering, Graham's in a completely different part of the planet than us, so we
Yeah.
get to see when he's up too late because we're already up. Because
that's true.
he's
That's
he's
true. I didn't even think about that.
he's 14 hours in the future. He lives
Right.
in Japan, future land.
Yeah.
So
So,
so yeah,
yes.
I'll be like at work. I'm like, dang, Graham is
Yeah,
like
he's
really
still
late.
on. He's still on
still on?
Discord.
And to
We're
be
still
fair,
playing.
it happens in the reverse too. He'll jump on
That's true.
Discord just to tell me to go to bed. He'll be like, "Go to bed, boy."
What
I'm
are you
like,
doing
"Oh
here?
yeah."
It's lunchtime. Get out of here. Yeah, yeah. So I've been playing through Cave Story. It's a lot of fun. There's multiple like branching paths. There's like three, well, really like two, and then like one small one for like a bad ending. But I've been doing through like the perfect kind of best ending, which gives you a bunch of additional like content to go through. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a new experience, and I haven't played it in forever. So the other thing is, I played for all of like 30 minutes. I played a game called Titan Quest, which is a Diablo. It's like an action
Titan
RPG,
Quest.
Diablo-esque style. Yeah, you probably never heard of it. I think it's sold pretty okay.
I was thinking of
And it
Titan Souls. I've played
Yeah, not
that.
Titan Souls,
Yes.
but
Okay.
Titan Quest. So I played that I've had it in my backlog forever, and I just been chipping away at random games. So I started playing that. It was terrible. It was straight awful. No offense to anyone who likes that game. I'm sorry. There's no hit detection at all. When you hit monsters, you go like this, and then like the
Oof.
monsters lose HP.
What's going
Like
like
Ouch.
there's
this?
I
Like you
like
just go
they're
through them.
swinging like
There's
a
You
there's no
just okay.
feedback, no
There's no
haptic
no,
okay.
your
feedback at
character.
all.
Yeah, so your character has like a sword, and they go like this.
So you're just
and
swinging back
swing
and
it.
forth, and
Yep.
there's no
And the
like.
monsters, I legitimately thought I wasn't hitting but then I looked up at the monster's health and it was going down like this, and I was like, I'm hitting them. There's no sound. There's no effects. There's no response from the monster. Nothing.
So it's like
Jeez.
Nothing at all.
WoW, but without sound.
I mean, even WoW has more registry than that. It
I
was
hated that about
not
WoW. I'm
good.
just like I can't do
I
this, but
I legitimately, there was a point where I was playing it and I was like maybe 30-ish minutes in. Maybe I played it for an hour. Maybe that's being generous. But I was playing it and I was legitimately falling asleep.
hmm.
I was like, this game is not good.
Well, it's
So,
from 2006, but
yeah,
so
but they've been
it's
updating it
dated.
with expansions and all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, it
it's
wasn't,
crazy. Yeah, it's come out on PlayStation 4 and Switch and Xbox One.
yeah.
That's crazy from a
Yeah,
game that came out in 2006.
Hmm.
I
But
legitimately thought it was going to be like decent or okay
It's
because
got
I
good
had
reviews
seen
on
like people
Steam.
talk about it. Right, like it reviews really well. So I was like, oh, this will be like at least it'll be fun to like go through the story and stuff.
it's got
Game's
3
Uh,
developers
not
listed,
good.
so that might have some things with it.
Yeah,
The
maybe
the
those
publisher is
could
THQ
be
Nordic.
ports.
Oh yeah, that could be the ports. Yeah,
It could
that's
be ports, but yeah. So, anyways, Titan Quest Anniversary Edition is what I played. Not good. Avoid at all costs. Not that
good
anyone
to
was going to be
know.
playing it.
Good to know.
So, have you guys been playing anything? How is your backlog? Do you ever get to your backlogs?
I'm kind of weird. I always have the intention of getting into my backlog, but then I see a game that I've played a million times already,
And you're just like, man, I can't wait to play that
and I'm
again.
just like,
Can't
you
wait
know
to post
what?
my high score on Titanfall 2 to the Discord
Titanfall
today.
looks
Oh yeah,
really
Titanfall.
appealing.
Okay, there it is.
So
That's the real
Titan,
problem.
I mean, I need to get on Titanfall. It's on Game Pass, and yeah, I just need
Is
to
there
play it.
crossplay?
I don't. I would hope so. I don't know, but I mean,
It
Respawn
goes
has
all through
crossplay
the
on
Yeah, it goes through the
other
Origin
stuff.
launcher, so
Apex is completely crossplay on everything, so I would
yeah,
assume that they have got that technology to Titanfall too.
yeah. But oh man, we should have a podcast where I just go on an hour talking about Titanfall 2.
Well,
Because
I
I
mean,
could talk about it
you
forever,
mean
dude.
nap time. You mean nap time, which is funny because I do like Titanfall. I think it's amazing. In fact, I was the one who got you into
Yes.
Titanfall
Yeah,
2.
I think both of you have told me that it's probably the best like arena style shooter like
Oh
that
yeah,
It's the best
ever
movement
made.
shooter like
Yeah.
it's amazing.
there is.
It's amazing.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just peak movement shooter. The way the momentum carries through, like if you've played Apex, like you can
I
appreciate
played a
Apex
lot of Apex.
momentum. Yeah. Now take
Yeah,
that and multiply it tenfold.
and make it
Like
better. Yeah.
and make it way
Make it
better.
better.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
it's so good, and I'm not the best like shooter. Like I'd say I'm average at, first person shooter. I'm decent at tracking, where people are and all that stuff. But what I really fell in love with Titanfall 2 was their mobility. Just the amount of options and things that you can do. And I've gotten to the point where that's like my strong point. Not that there's still people who can like just glide circles around me in the game, but as far as just from a pure mechanical aiming perspective, I've been able to supplant my weaknesses in that with my ability to move around really well in the game, and like to be able kind of feel the flow of other players and kind of predict where they're gonna go, and that's just kind of that's
Yeah,
where
that's
it
what's
is.
carried me the farthest in Apex games is I would play a character that had a really good movement ability. Like initially I didn't think that the robot was any good. What's his name? It's been so long since I played it.
Yes.
It's been a long since I played it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the there's a robot guy with the grapple hook. I'm like, oh, initially, yeah, the grappling hook's pretty good. Like you can get up on places, but I'm like, but it's not like game changing. And then I realized just after playing the game for I have played the game for hundreds of hours. It's been a really long time
It's Pathfinder.
because
That's who it is.
Pathfinder,
That's
yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
That in the middle of a firefight, like you running out of a door real quick and then like just twitching up and shooting your grapple hook up just to get in a certain position just changes everything. And of course everybody's saying duh right now, but until you actually learn how to do it, like learn how to apply it, it doesn't
Right.
seem that great. You're like, yeah, I could do this, but in the moment you're not doing it properly until finally you've played enough that automatically you're just thinking about it, like the building and you know where the thing is that you're going to hit with your grappling hook, and you know what the person behind you is going to do, or the person on the other side. Like he said, just you can make up a lot of skill in different ways by
Hmm.
um like just the theory of the game. That's how I went so far playing PUBG and Apex and like that for so long, because same thing is like I would say that I'm an okay shooter player. I would say I'm average too, for today's standards probably. Definitely been going downhill every day. But
As we get older,
but
old
that yeah,
men.
that's what's kept me in the game, is like just just having mental notes of all this stuff, and just knowing the theory of stuff can really take you a long way. And then if you have fast twitch skills, you're just on top of that, then that's what separates you from that's what puts you in the 1% above all the other
Yeah.
players.
You're
Now
talking about game
these guys are
sense.
being these guys are being
Yeah.
modest, but their shooting skills are actually above average. I'm not gonna say you guys are like pro level, but they're certainly better than average. I played with both of them in shooter games. Especially George right now is like on a freaking binge of Titanfall every occasionally, and occasionally he'll even get people calling him out for
Yes,
cheating
yeah.
because he's wrecking so
I'll get
hard.
accused
So
of cheating,
let's not
and
be
I can.
too modest here.
I'll just say this: I'm not cheating, and if anyone ever wishes to watch me stream, I can show you literally all my running applications, and I'm so confident I can duplicate my results that I'll just show you everything that's going on, and I'll still duplicate that.
Yeah, we should make a
Yeah,
Titanfall date to play it.
there.
I'm
That's
down,
true. There you
dude.
Because
go.
I
The
have
Game Club
been.
Titanfall.
That will have to wait until I get my new internet though, because I
No
can't.
worries.
Currently, what's been keeping me from playing any of those games is I just have really bad lag.
Mm.
Like I can barely even play Heroes of the Storm without little
Mm.
hitches. So
Oh
just
man.
from the setup that I have, that I can't really do anything about at the moment. But
There's one thing about Titanfall 2 that makes me very what is the word? I don't want to say it like stops me from getting into it as much as I want to, but it's certainly something that's like petty, but also is like detrimental to my experience.
All
So
right.
I played a lot of Titanfall 1 back in the day, and in Titanfall 1, when you summon your Titan and you go in, the animation that plays is in first person. And it feels like the reason I played so much Titanfall 1 because it felt incredible to go into your Titan. Every time it was like the dopamine's going off, I was like, yes, I'm in this mech now. I'm
don't
gonna destroy people,
don't you
even if
like
I die
slide? Can you like
immediately.
slide between their legs and they like pick you up or
Yeah,
something?
you
Is
like
that how it
slide
works?
between their legs, or like they eat you, or like you fall into the top. Like it's all these cool ways of getting in. But in Titanfall 2, it's third person. The camera pans out from your character, and you watch your character go in, and then it goes back in. And I didn't even realize like that there was that disconnect because that's like the main. This again sounds really dumb and petty, but that was like one of the main things that I enjoyed about the gameplay loop, right? Because
It,
the gameplay loop is like shooting and getting your mech, and so like all of that is amazing, but like it's that one added element that like really seals the deal for me of like, oh man, it feels so good. Like the gameplay loop becomes complete for me, but without it, it didn't feel as complete. So I hope if they ever do a Titanfall 3, which the Titanfall community really really hopes that
I'd
there's going to
love
be
a
a Titanfall
Titanfall
3,
3. I'd
but I
love it.
really hope they go back to that
Or at least
because
give you the
that
option
was
to switch
at
between the two.
least give you the option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was honestly incredible. It was amazing. So,
yeah, it's funny
but yes,
how
I
small
other than
things
that,
like that
Titanfall
can
2 is
can take you out of the experience. And
yeah.
like I said, you probably subconsciously knew it immediately, but you didn't consciously catch up for a little bit, and then you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
this
played
this
I played for like 10
sucks.
hours and at like 5 hours in I was like there's something missing. I don't know why. And then like at the 10-hour mark I was like realizing, wait a second, it's not as punchy when I get in my mech.
Yeah,
So,
it's amazing how complicated things can be with putting you in and taking you out of the of experiences.
right.
It's an art form all its own, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even still, Titanfall 2 is incredible. I encourage everyone to play it. And I should really play it more, but, you know.
Yeah, I want to get into it a little bit.
I hands down most recommended game of this year. Even though it's like
Game
super
of the year,
actually
boys.
actually Obra Dinn is up there actually. I think I'd
Okay, all
recommend
right.
Obra
Yeah.
Dinn first. But Titanfall
Plug
2, man.
plug to the Oberdin conversation
Yes.
right
Yeah.
there. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, so my backlog I have not been able to get to, just between our monthly games and just life right now. I haven't played much of anything besides that, and just doing daily quests on MTG Arena.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't have much going on. I do have a wish list of things. Like I do want to finish Control, because um life happened like 3/4 of the way through that one, and I didn't, and I think I'm just gonna have to start it back over, which I'm completely fine with, because I'll get to see all the wonderful story stuff again that I like.
True.
And then I also want to play through Hollow Knight again before the second one comes out. That's something that I am excited about,
I
but I didn't
should
say
do,
anything during the
actually.
E3 because we already know that it's coming and pretty much know everything about it. But yeah, I'm gonna do a run through of Hollow Knight. And those are on my
Yeah, I'm
those
looking
are on
forward
my
to Silk
backlog right
Song
now.
a lot, actually. I loved Hollow
Yeah.
Knight. I loved
So
it.
no
Yeah, if anybody
backlog.
doesn't know yet here,
Only yeah,
Hollow Knight's
only
like my
playing
favorite game of all time, I think. I think I've pretty much decided.
Hollow Knight, you said?
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I had this
it's up there,
conversation in a
dude.
different circle, but
it's a good game.
It's up
yeah,
there
I
for
have
sure.
I have come to the realization that I think it's my favorite game. It hits me in so many different ways. Um,
I
yeah.
feel you. I wish, man, I really do wish. Every time I think about Hollow Knight, I go, I wish I loved Hollow Knight more. I
Well,
played
let's
through
have a
like,
conversation about it another time because
Yes.
yeah,
it's such a
yeah,
deep
that's true.
conversation
That's
for
true.
me. But
It's. I acknowledge. I'll just say, I acknowledge it's an incredible game. It just didn't grab me. We'll get into.
yeah,
Maybe we'll have that conversation at some point. But yeah, it is an incredible game. So.
It
But
is.
yes, I don't know. I've been struck with a mood over the last couple months to actually play through my backlog, which is like the first time almost ever, and I have like dozens and dozens
It's
of
such a
games on my Steam
daunting
account.
feat,
do you
dude. That
kind of feel like our thing that we're doing is kind of helping you enjoy playing more often? Because I feel
I
like it
think
is for me. Like
so.
doing the podcast and doing the monthly conversations definitely makes me feel better about playing anything.
Yeah,
Like it's
I mean, I think recently because I play so many like gotcha games too, it's easy to get trapped in like the mentality of like playing a game for extrinsic reasons
yeah,
of like,
like going
oh,
through the motions doing the daily quests. Like
yeah,
it's
doing the
sometimes I
daily
don't feel
quests and
like playing
leveling up
arena, but I always
characters
do
and
because I know I need to get the gold.
right, yeah, like it I think over the last year I think I've really noticed that I've been trapped in like an extrinsic kind of way of playing. Like I don't like to play things unless I feel like there's some extrinsic value of levels going up or progressing or something like that. And I've really been thinking like I really wish I could get back to playing things for intrinsic reasons. I think the game club has certainly helped me to get back to that baseline of like I'm just gonna put on this game because I like this game and I
I just
enjoy
like
the time that I
games.
have.
Yeah. It's
And
we should have a conversation another conversation about this too because yeah,
that's
I'm
true, yeah. But
things
but
are
that being
evolving
said,
for me mentally in that
yeah.
capacity.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting topics for us to dig
We'll make a
into, but
list and then we'll just
we'll have to make a list,
tackle them
yeah.
one by one.
Yeah, it's very interesting, yeah. But that being said, our time is up today, but I'm very excited for future conversations. We'll probably be doing something for E3,
Hmm.
maybe like covering it in some way on the podcast or like having a slightly longer episode because there'll be so much to talk about at E3.
There will be, yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what we do. Just to put it out there, get people excited. So yeah, that's all for us today.
Our
Thanks so
game
much for
this
coming,
month
guys.
is
Oh,
Nox. If anyone listening wants to
yes.
play along with us and hear our conversation at the end of the month, feel free to pick it up.
Yep.
Yep. Nox is on GOG. Last time I saw it, it was on sale, I believe, or maybe that was
Yep.
something else. But it's on GOG. It's really cheap, and in my opinion, it's very good. So I encourage everyone to check it out and join us for the conversation coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah, our very in-depth wild and wacky conversations where
Yeah, seriously.
we have some characters and
We
we
certainly
all
do.
have opinions and love sharing them.
Yeah, so I'm very excited for that, and thanks so much, you two, for joining me and everyone else. We will
Yep,
see you next time.
appreciate
See
it.
ya.
See ya.
Bye.